began in the fall of 1969 when Assistant Commissioner Dave Ellis was touring the country looking for locations that he might be able to start a canine program. He was accompanied by Cleburne Meyer, who was the regional commissioner in Houston, discussing with him the possibility of starting a program like this, realizing that nobody else in the country had one. So they decided that they would start a program of their own. He decided that he wanted to start this thing about the 1st of April as kind of his April Fool's joke on the smuggler. So he held off, even though he interviewed many of the people involved, he held off until then to start the program. And I was put on loan from the Air Force to the Customs Service for the next 6-month period until my enlistment from the Air Force expired. And then he hired about 5 other individuals that were ex-military dog handlers, some of them ex-military dog training instructors. And then we trained the first group of dogs as an experiment. The thought being that we were going to train this group of dogs and then they would be tested in the field and tested by the customs agents. And then they'd come back and look at the results and see whether or not they were going to take the next step. But they were so successful in what they did, we went out for about 3 weeks in the various major ports in the United States. The test went so well that they decided they'd put some handlers out in the field right away. So at the time we had actually each trained 2 dogs. And we finished this by about June. And so they brought in a couple of extra ex-military handlers, and we trained them to handle the dogs that we had already trained. And then 5 of those folks went out to the different locations in the country to begin the actual operational part of the program.
Well, when I came on board, all the canine training was done at Lackland Air Force Base, San Antonio, Texas. And basically, we were hired out of Houston, and we went down there and we started training. And there wasn't really a basic 13, 14-week course. It was just you trained 2 dogs, and you graduated when they met the standards. So you could be down there a month, 3 months, 4 months, until the dogs passed their final evaluation. Once they did, then you would graduate.
Keep moving. Keep working, Ebony. Keep moving.
I started in U.S. Customs, and now it's Customs and Border Protection, so I've been through the whole gamut, 4 or 5 different commissioners. The program hasn't changed that much. The big difference now is the dogs we used in the beginning were dogs that we got from shelters and pounds. These were dogs that were going to be probably put to sleep because they were untrainable. No one really wanted to adopt them, so we went out to the various shelters, looked for dogs that would suit our needs. We would take our towel, throw the towel, the dog would bring it back, then we'd send the dog down to Front Royal. They'd put the dog through an additional test, and if it made it, then it would go, it'd become a narcotic detected dog. Now we're basically purchasing a lot of dogs through vendors.
I was very fortunate to become the first canine officer on the East Coast, woman, first woman supervisor in New York, the first program manager as a woman in Washington, D.C., and the second female instructor here at the Academy, first female assistant director, and I've been very fortunate. Back then we had what we now call positive response dogs. They were trained to bite and scratch at the location of the narcotic odor.
Come on, big dog.
I think the canine program is a wonderful opportunity for anybody. They really enjoy animals to be part of the future, part of the Department of Homeland Security, be part of securing the borders and using the dog to do it. I think it's a wonderful job and a wonderful opportunity.
This was a customs program within the organization that's going to use it. So the user had a lot of input into what he wanted in this dog, what this dog should do. We had nothing financially to gain by turning out dogs. They had to be reliable, And like I said, we thought we were just buying time because it sounded that way. It sounded like the high-tech part of this was going to take over real soon. Well, here 40 years later, their high-tech is still trying to catch up with the dog.